So, going to share something from this book, The Way, the Truth, and the Light. The back cover says, oh, and the subtitle is The Story of a Prophet. And before I do that, though, I would like to hear from you guys. We have a couple new people here. I'm curious about what draw you, each of you, to this class and to the studies of Lao Tzu and Taoism and all that kind of stuff. So I'd be curious to hear from people. We can go from, I'll go from the left to the right. Uh, David, are you here?
I am.
Oh, okay. So, yes, if you want to share just a little something about what drew you to this class, what drew you to the Taoist world.
I don't think you want to hear all 50 years of that history,
No,
but
you can
I
kind of do the short version.
the short version is, I, as a recovering Catholic,
Uh-huh.
I had always, underneath all that religion,
Mhm.
understood that nature was the only true truth in the world
Mhm.
and in the universe. And from that, I discovered uh, Qigong Tai
Oh.
Chi Chuan teacher
Mhm.
and started my journey. That was in 1978.
Mhm.
I am currently a Healing Tao instructor
Oh, sure.
and
Yeah, I know Michael
still,
Wynn. I know Michael Wynn and Montechia.
yes, I know you do.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And you know we have other people in common to
Oh,
us, which we won't go into.
okay.
But so this has been a long time study of mine.
Hmm.
I actually bought your book a couple of years ago as a to use as a daily morning kind of reader and enjoyed it.
Great.
Even though I probably have 15 copies of the Tao Te Ching,
Oh, yeah.
and I really wanted to. I was part of a discussion group with a teacher who was based in China, and it was a little difficult.
Mm.
Um, and it was a little difficult in translation.
Mm.
And it was also very Buddhist. So I'm more of the Taoist
Yeah.
leaning. And so that brought me when you announced this class that you weren't just going to use your book, you were
Yeah.
going to use other sources. I
Yeah.
said, "Ooh, this sounds like a group I might want to be in."
Oh,
That's the short version. I'm not saying any more.
okay. Okay, that's fine. Let me just briefly interject. Many years ago, I was at a temple called, what was it? It was in on the coast in China. And it was a beautiful temple, which I can't remember the name of. But anyway, we were sitting down with the abbot and we were having tea with the abbot, and we had a so-so translator. But I remember him saying, very important to study Lao Tzu, Zhuangzi, Lai Tzu. But he said, the best teacher is not in a book, the best teacher is nature. And when you see the
I'm in total
term,
agreement. Yes.
yeah, yeah, I figured you were. When you see in the Tao Te Ching, when you see this word tian, which is often translated as heaven, what it really means is nature.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes. Okay, DC, you're up.
Not much to tell. I've been a student of philosophy for a long time,
Mm,
and the parallels between what I learned in the Tao Te Ching uh, and Confucius readings mirror what I see in Plato and Aristotle. So
mm,
great thoughts cross
mm.
timelines and locations and
Interesting.
are just good rules to live by.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, I know nothing about Western philosophy. I know who those, I've heard those names, but I've never I just went into the Eastern thing. So I'm glad to hear that there are connections. Yeah, that's great. Okay, Joni.
I wasn't deliberately looking to learn about Taoism. For many years, I've been a seeker to understand my own spirituality
Mm,
and to identify it and clarify it.
mm,
And so I've taken a lot of different paths and classes, and the work I've done seems to have, um, the healing work, and I've taught Qigong and meditation
Mhm.
and um, yoga. I've studied a lot of mindfulness practices
Mhm.
with Buddhists and
Mhm.
other people. And I had heard of the NQA,
Mhm.
the National Qigong Association,
Mhm.
and I was a new member, and I saw that there was a speaker who was going to address Qigong or Taoism and Qigong. I don't
Mhm.
remember the title. And that
Mhm.
was you.
Oh.
And I had wanted to start my Qigong practice again.
Mhm.
And so I attended that,
Mhm.
and I was just really taken by your presentation and the way you brought these ideas together, and you seem to be connecting what I've been coming to understand about my own existence.
Mhm.
And um, I could never say that I want to label myself as a Taoist.
Mhm.
I don't, at this point, I don't label myself as anything other than um, my upbringing, which isn't my spiritual path.
Yeah.
It's more my community
Yeah.
kind of path.
Mhm.
But that's when you mentioned a class. I
Mhm.
started studying with you, and I've been studying with you ever
I
since.
know it's like 5 years, I
And
think.
is it really that long?
Since before COVID, I started the Dao De Jing class.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I think that one of the first classes you were teaching a class, spiraling dragon,
Hmm.
that you taught that form of qigong. So I really wanted to learn that,
Ah.
and I have there's a lot that I've received
Mm.
from being in your classes.
Mm.
I love the opportunity to discuss how this relates to me, because I'm really trying to understand myself and my relationship to everything else. I've always, not always, but for many years, I've seen myself as part of a whole, a one, which is very clearly how Tao is presenting to me.
Mhm.
And your way of teaching is very easy for me to learn from.
Mm. Great.
I I love I love storytelling.
Hmm.
I love listening to stories.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so
Great.
that's how I've progressed to this point. And
And here we are.
yeah,
Bill also has been in this class for many years. And Bill and I knew each other from, I don't know how many years ago. We went to China together. Did you go to Tibet too?
Yeah, I went.
Yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah. That was
trip
2006,
to
maybe?
Boston. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. Then, yeah.
Yeah. That was great. That was a great trip. So what brings you here, Bill?
Well, I started studying Taoism, like I said, about 20 years ago,
Hmm.
and then got into Buddhism through some experiences. And what's happened is I still like the basic principles of Buddhism, but all of the ways you can participate in Buddhism, at least in Sacramento and pretty much in the United States, they all have this powerful cultural wrapper, either Japanese or Tibetan, wrapped around it.
Mostly, yeah.
So the teachings, in many cases, kind of tend to get lost in the cultural material.
Hmm.
So that's why I guess a couple of years ago I moved back into Taoism to get away from
Mm.
multitudes of deities and all the
Yeah.
cultural baggage that's been
Yeah.
wrapped up with a lot of Buddhism. So that's what brought me back to Taoism, was trying to get to a more universal spiritual understanding.
Yeah, great. Okay, Bob, who I don't know.
Um, Much of my adult life, I've considered myself a seeker, and I've evolved from a very narrow view of religion to a broader perspective.
Mm.
I started studying Tai Chi in 98,
Mhm.
and naturally, eventually, that's drawn me over the years towards Taoism. So that's why I'm attending more to enrich my thinking regarding this particular topic.
Okay, wonderful. Well, you might notice I actually thought today of putting in the chat the name of the book that I was going to be sharing. Actually, I put it in here twice, and it's a book that's been sitting on my shelf for a long time. As I was saying earlier, as a recovered Catholic, the title, The Way, the Truth, and the Light, was a little scary. But I picked it up recently, and I want to share just one chapter, but the it's called The Way, the Truth, and the Light. The subtitle is called The Story of a Prophet. He doesn't give any names. And the little description on the back says, written in light narrative form, The Way, the Truth, and the Light presents the reader with an intriguing proposition about the studies and travels of a beloved prophet. The story begins about around 2,500 years ago as a renowned Eastern sage foretells the birth of an important new leader in 500 years from his time. He leaves instructions to pass along his teachings to this new leader. At the designated time, three wise men journey to the west and locate the special child. The young boy grows up and journeys to the east in pursuit of spiritual guidance. The book chronicles the journeys and discoveries of many years that eventually lead him to achieve great prophetic wisdom. He travels back to his native land to share his teaching and inspires many true seekers. So when I first got it, it would just seem like such an outrageous story, but I am enjoying it. Oh, the last paragraph. Investigating the nature of God and truth, the meaning of miraculous healing, and the possibilities of eternal life. This book links the spiritual knowledge of East and West. So there we got a little bit of that going. Offering insight into the way, capital W, the revelation of truth and the emergence of light in the world. So this is, and if you can see, here's the author here. Hold it up to the light. Yeah, there. That's Master when I met him in 1993. He at the time lived here in Oregon, down in southern Oregon, way out in the forest, down these little logging roads, and he had a cabin in the forest, and he was just there with his secretary, and they were working on his books. And I don't remember how it happened. Somehow I was given permission to just go down and visit him. So the chapters are very short. And this one is kind of interesting because the he in the book, he doesn't use anybody's name. As a matter of fact, he calls Lao Tzu, he never uses his name, he calls him the ageless one. And this he's giving some examples from Dao De Jing in this chapter in a slightly different way than a lot of times they're translated. Oh, and like some of the other folks, I've been a spiritual seeker for a long time and was introduced to yoga meditation when I was a young lad of 19 and was always been very drawn to Eastern philosophy and ideas. Somehow it just makes sense to me, even though some people it doesn't. And Japanese and Chinese and even Tibetan art has always been very attractive to me. So I read the first Tao Te Ching I read was the Jiafu Feng and Jane English one that you guys are probably familiar with, which is originally a big book, really beautiful photographs and everything. Similar to the books I did, Tales from the Tao and the Chuang-Tzu book with Watkins. Um, I am waiting to hear from Shambhala about my book of guided meditations. I went through the first hurdle. Now I'm on the second hurdle. So we'll see what happens. I'm supposed to hear back in the next week or so about that, which would be very cool to work with Shambhala. So this chapter is called Love of the People. This time, the young one came to the teacher. Again, we're not using any names. The teacher asked to see his palms. Both palms were calloused from hard work and showed that his kind heart was stronger than his palms. The young man has been helping all the farmers in the region. The mentor smiled and asked him to soak his hands in newly drawn water from the deep well and carefully wash them. The young one obeyed and did so. With joy, he returned to the teacher and said, "My hands are clean and all the calluses are gone." The mentor was pleased. The young one asked, "I would like to know more about the teaching of the ageless one. What is everlasting life?" The mentor answered, "The way is the way of everlasting life. This is the essence of the ageless one's teachings." Remember, ageless one is Lao Tzu. "I will recite his own words for you, slowly to help you catch them carefully." I love that line. I recite them slowly so you can catch them easily. I will do so in no particular order. I will just tell you whatever comes into my mind first. The young one said, "All right." The mentor paused briefly as he did when he used to recite this as part of his own practice. Because traditionally in China, the monks in the temples chant the Tao Te Ching. As a matter of fact, many people, some translators, feel that a lot of the teachings, let's see, how could I put this? Anybody who's gone into the internal alchemy stuff, the Nadon stuff, has realized that they use a lot of esoteric symbols and names, which, if you're just reading the text, is hard to understand. It was because you were supposed to be studying this with a teacher who would fill in all the stuff that was missing in the written text. And just so with the Tao Te Ching, it was meant as a text to chant. So that's why it's written in this verse form. And some of the meaning of some of the chapters are a little esoteric, meaning if you just read the book, you might not get it. It was because you should be studying this stuff with a teacher who is explaining everything between the lines. So unless you read a really good commentary, and there's a number of them, people have been writing commentaries on Tao Te Ching for 2,500 years, or at least 2,000 years. Chinese are big on writing commentaries. So there's commentaries and there's commentaries in the commentaries. And some of the texts, Buddhist and Taoist texts, have been lost to various book burnings and various upheavals in society. And so what sometimes they'll find, like in a tomb or something, is a commentary about that text. And that's how people find, oh, there was this text that they're commenting on. Though we don't have the original text, we can still learn something from the commentaries. So the idea is that when you read Tao Te Ching and you study Tao Te Ching especially, and you try to, or not try to, you do use the Tao Te Ching in your daily life, there's stuff in there that takes a little bit of meditation, learning, looking at other people's versions. Like David said, I have, and I know Bill does too, I have many translations and interpretations. And that's really the way to get everything out of this text. Okay, so going on here, the mentor, the mentor paused briefly as he did when he used to recite this as part of his own practice. He began, "The ageless one said, the spirit of the universe has no death. It is the hidden reproductive power of nature and is the subtle origin of all. Thus, it is the root of the universe." So he's paraphrasing stuff from Tao Te Ching here. The young one asked, "How does it live?" The mentor answered, "The ageless one said, the universal source is everlasting. It is subtle and gentle and exists beyond the knowledge of senses. By being subtle and gentle in using itself, it never exhausts itself. And in the direct translation, it talks about Tao as an empty vessel. That's from that chapter. The young one asked, is the spirit of the universe an individual or is it a thing? The mentor smiled and answered, it is not an individual. It is the foundation of all individual beings and things. It is the subtle level of universal existence. So that's a good one-line definition of Tao, the subtle level of universal existence. And then he goes on, as the ageless one said, the spirit of the universe is long-lived. Why can the spirit of the universe live long? Because it is not lived for itself. Thus it lives in everlasting life. The young one asked, what can people learn from the spirit of the universe? The mentor answered, the ageless one said, the wise one puts his own life concerns after all other people's lives. Thus he is found to be foremost. The sage leads from behind. Because his spirit lives beyond his physical life, he finds his everlasting being everywhere. So because he is not limited by his intellectual mind, certainly, and even limited by his own individual life, he experiences himself as a living life of all life. Does that make sense? Okay. Not because one does not take care of oneself, but because one loves the lives of all people, he accomplishes his life in peace. The young one asked again, I would like to know more about how people should treat other people. The mentor answered, as the ageless one said, to know everlasting life is to become receptive. By becoming receptive, one becomes selfless. By becoming selfless, one extends one's life to all lives. By loving all lives, one becomes God. To be God is to be one with the way. The way is everlasting. Then one's life is with the way and never ends. So he's using this word God in here, which you don't usually see in Taoist books, but he's teaching this young man that God is not some being in the sky who's, watching everybody and rewarding and punishing everyone. His use of the word God is the indwelling spirit of everyone and everything. The young one asked, I know now that the wise one serves God through serving all people, and the foolish one makes people serve his ego and therefore abandons God. Yet I would like to know what is the right way to achieve this. The mentor answered, as the ageless one said, to help others live an ordinary life and to serve God, there is nothing better than a self-disciplined, balanced life. By practicing a self-disciplined, balanced life, one reaches the way of everlasting life. So you see the theme here that he keeps going back to. By living a self-disciplined, balanced life, there is no obstacle that cannot be overcome in one's life. Thus, one moves toward the infinite. Practically, one enlarges one's spiritual territory, which is an interesting phrase. Practically, one enlarges one's spiritual territory to enjoy endless development. This is to deeply root one's life in the everlasting life of universal potency. So those two phrases, enlarging spiritual territory, living a life of universal potency. Now, those are very different than Catholicism, of course. The young one asked again, what is worth doing other than things related to physical life? The mentor answered, as the ageless one said, what is strongly built is found in ruins someday. Yet the upright character of a person cannot be removed. What is tenaciously adhered to is sometimes seen falling apart. Yet the loving nature of an individual toward all lives cannot be destroyed. So he's talking about what is that term again, everlasting. Like the Qigong practices we do in China, they call them long life practices, partly because the more you do them, you live a more healthy, longer life, and also because you use them throughout your life. It isn't you go to a workshop, learn some Qigong, do it for a couple of months, and then stop. And no matter how something in the physical world is strongly built, in one day it will fall apart. But if we do our internal work, even when we leave this body, we are this, the practices, the potency that we learn, that we experience lives on in another form after this body is gone. Does that make sense? Trying to put things in a simple way so that I can understand them. The young one asked again, what is the general practice for obtaining everlasting life? The mentor answered, as the ageless one said, the universe has its beginning. The beginning is the mother of all. This is going back to the very first chapter of Dao De Jing. From knowing the mother, the spirit of the universe, one knows the offspring, or the children of the mother. All the beings and things of the manifest world, what in Chinese is called Wan Wu, WANWU, often translated as the 10,000 things. In my book, I translate it as the 10,000 beings, which I like better, meaning all life in the world. We are among the offspring of the subtle origin, the world of non-being. Knowing oneself to be one of the offspring, but staying united with the inexhaustible subtle source is how we attain everlasting life. So we live in the world of being, or what they call post-heaven, but at the same time, we keep a connection or create a connection and practice a connection to non-being. I remember in the first chapter, he says, being and non-being come from the same source, but they have different names. And then he says that character Xuan, Xuan, mystery within mystery, the gateway to all marvelous wonders. Probably my favorite, one of my favorite lines in the whole book. Keep away from the distraction of the sensory surface. Stay with the deep, subtle origin, which is beyond all differences and conflict. Then you will find the deep truth of eternal life. And of course, we know that, especially in the esoteric realm, esoteric Islam, the Sufis, esoteric Christianity, esoteric Buddhism, esoteric Taoism, there's the path that all people are on, especially when we get into beyond the what's shiny and what shows in the being realm, and we're trying to get to the non-being or the truth, the way, the truth, and the light is all going to the same place, right? All the great mystery traditions are all taking us to the same place. But it's kind of like you go to Baskin and Robbins and it's all ice cream, but there's all these different flavors. And some people, all they want is vanilla. And other people want the most esoteric flavor they have there, right? Or they even get, like I like to have, can I get a half a scoop of this and a half a scoop of that so I can try some different paths, some different flavors? And that's also a fun way to go. But eventually you do decide there are certain flavors that you really like and other flavors are not that interesting. So then you start focusing. And remember that's the number one reason for meditation in my book is to teach us how to focus. And everything in the modern world, everything in all the what do they call social media and all that, which has a lot of great stuff in it, is working to take us out of focus, right? Our area of focus, or what's the word, like young people especially, or even me, if someone sends me an email and it's more than just a couple of paragraphs, it's like, oh my God, I have to read all this stuff because our area of focus is so short now. My kids, my grown children, I'm with them and I say, let's get in touch with, one of the other brothers. We're gonna have dinner tonight. And I say, so what's their phone number? Or one of their friends, what's their phone number? Oh, we'll just text them. It's too much to call them on the phone and speak to them. They just text it. I don't know if you've noticed, a lot of young people, that's what they do. And then people think there's a practice nowadays called mindfulness, Joni mentioned. It's sort of comes from Buddhism, but it's like Buddhism light. And I tell people I personally need to do formal meditation because my brain is always going and I need to really focus. And some people may not need to. Um, but one of my teachers, one of my Taoist teachers says there's a difference between mindfulness and meditation, especially if you go to a mindfulness center and anyone that lies on the floor and listens to nice music and stuff and practices mindfulness. Mindfulness to me is the first step towards deep meditation. So it's better than just, coming home and watching TV every night and falling asleep on the couch. Okay, off on a wide tangent here. You new people will notice I do that quite a bit. Let's see, where were we? Stay with the deep, subtle origin, which is beyond all differences and conflict. That's what I was going at. Then you will find the deep truth of eternal life. This is where all the mystic paths lead us. One who runs after the superficial differences of the offspring loses the connection with the subtle source of oneness and is found to be helpless in the end. Helpless and possibly hopeless. A couple of years ago, we have some very close friends who are Sufi. They're Sufi mystics and Sufi musicians, and they connect me with this book by one of the a couple generations ago, Hazrat Inayat Khan. I don't know if any of you know who he is, but he wrote a book about music and cosmic music and music as a spiritual path. And it's so beautifully written and so beautifully done. I was, in the warm times of year, I sit out on my deck outside and I'm reading this book and I'm in tears every other page. And so they came over. I said, I think I'm a Taoist Sufi or a Sufi Taoist. Why not? The young one asked again, what does one use the mind? How does one use the mind in order to achieve spirituality? Because we still have this mind, especially in the modern age, and we still have this mind. And of course, the Chinese and Japanese believe that the mind resides in the heart. Um, the Xin, Xin is mind in Chinese. And also, the middle of the three treasures, the Shen, Shen, resides in the heart. And the Japanese also say shin for the heart, but they also have another term for the spiritual heart, which is kokoro, which is much cuter. K-O-R, kokoro, K-O-R-O-K-O. I'm not spelling it right. Kokoro, but it uses the same character as shin. So the mentor answered, as the ageless master said, to know what is too subtle or too small to be observed is to become bright-minded all the time. I love that term, bright-minded all the time, or bright-hearted, open-hearted. To keep to the gentle and soft, and remember, this is more the subtle things of life. This is one of the keys to Eastern philosophy, especially in China and somewhat in Japan, is to appreciate the subtleties of life, the subtleties of art. I love the paintings where it's the big mountains and it's going down, the clouds in the mountains, and you're going down and down is the forest, and there's a little river and there's a tiny bridge and there's a really tiny person walking over the bridge. Is how they portray how the world really is. And I lost my place. No, I didn't. I actually opened it to the right place. Interesting. Okay. Use the light of your own spiritual energy in all life actively. Don't hide your light under a bushel, as it says in the Bible. Remain with the subtle source of all. That's that mystic quest to get to the subtle source. Remain with the subtle source of all, and you shall have no trouble in your life. This is learning the way of everlasting life. The young one asked again, I have received the most invaluable guidance for spiritual practice. Yet I would like to know more about how to practice it in general worldly life. That's the key, right? The mentor answered, as the ageless one said, it is intelligent to know others, yet it is truly wise to know oneself. Remember those lines? I can't remember which chapter that's in. It is tough to conquer others, yet it is truly strong to conquer oneself. It is rich to own a lot of things, yet it is truly rich to be self-contented. In one of the chapters, he says, only the one who has little to lose. Only the one who owns little has little to lose. Yet it is willful to oppose one's ideas on others. Yet it is truly unshakable to move straightly toward an unselfish goal. One is long lasting to hold on to one's position. Yet truly lasting means not to die by continuing to give good service to all lives. The young one asked, is there any warning about learning everlasting life? It's kind of an interesting question. Is there any warning? The mentor answered, as the ageless one said, if you are too fond of something, it becomes too costly. If you have too many things, you will have a great loss. Humiliation is the end to the one who does not know how much is enough. The durable life force is attained by knowing when and where to stop. The young one asked, what is good and healthy for all people? The mentor smiled and said, it is your divine nature to always remember to benefit all other people. Now listen to what the ageless one said. Blessings reside in being humble. Straight is seen from the wrongdoing of others. Benefit is received by being insufficient. Renewal happens to what is worn out. Gain more by taking less. Waste comes from having too much. So those are some of those really paradoxical lines in the Tao Te Ching, and that we also find in Zen Buddhism too, these paradoxical. So the last part is, the young one happily concluded the meeting by saying, today I have received enough for my entire lifetime. The mentor smiled and said, concerning immortality, it is almost ready in you. Your life mission is to teach people the truth that is everlasting life. The young one said firmly, I will teach the faith of everlasting life to my people. They are in trouble. They need help. And remember, the young one is coming from the Middle East to China. The mentor said, sometimes one finds that a piece of old wood is harder to carve. Their stiff minds have lost flexibility. He's talking about where the young one came from. You may find a new place with different people, which is more fertile ground for this new seed. The young one answered, but I love my people. And the last line is, the meeting stopped here. So any questions about any of that?
Yeah, I actually have a question about Nusrat Ali Khan. Is this a book he wrote or a book
No,
about him?
Hazrat Inayat Khan.
Oh, not Nusrat Ali Khan.
Yeah, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan was a Pakistani singer of Qawwali music.
Kowali, yeah.
He was the master of Qawwali. Hazrat Inayat Khan, he was one of the people that brought Sufism to the West.
Huh. How do you
His
spell?
his father was Pir Vilayat Khan, then it was Hazrat Inayat Khan, and then there was this guy Samuel Lewis, who was a Jewish Sufi master. He was a rabbi and a Sufi master in San Francisco in the 60s when everything was blowing up. And he was the one who devised what we call Sufi dancing.
Hmm.
He's often referred to as Sufi Sam. Yeah, really, really interesting guy. So he started the whole Sufi dancing thing. And my friends, Kaban and David, are musicians, and they're the ones who, when they have these big Sufi gatherings from all over the country, they play the music for everyone to do the Sufi dancing too. Yeah. Yeah, I love the music of Nusra Fateh Ali Khan as well. He plays what's called Qawwali music from Pakistan, which is a devotional form of music. It's
Yeah.
very different than the Indian classical singing.
Oh yeah, quite.
Yeah, yeah. I got to see Nusrat many years ago in Portland. It was
Oh really?
a really
Uh-huh.
great experience. Yes.
Yeah.
So that just gives us a few ideas, a few tastes. Sometimes it's fun to go to the ice cream store and say, "Can I taste the chocolate, that one, and can I taste that one?" And when I first started dating my partner, Shanti, we went to a wedding of friends of hers. Um, One thing that was fun is they had just met me, they didn't know me, and the bride, we were having the dinner afterwards. It's very small. And she's saying, "Oh, this is my friend I've known from college. This is my friend, and this is my friend Shanti's friend, Ooh La La." That's how she put it. And they served this coconut bliss ice cream, which I highly recommend. It's a coconut-based ice cream, of course. And we liked it so much, we went to where they had scoops and we actually tasted every one of them. I want to try this one, this one, this one. We tasted all of them. So it's fun sometimes to have little tastes of different things, to go Sufi dancing, to go to a kirtan show, meditate with some Tibetan masters. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's possible to actually do that while remaining with your own deep practice. It doesn't take away from your deep practice to go and share with other people for different things, as long as you're not trying to do them all at once. The Chinese say it's better if you're digging a hole for a well, it's better to deep to dig a very deep one instead of digging like eight ones that aren't deep enough to catch the water. Okay, so we're going to do a little practice here. It's called the Golden Light practice, Golden Light meditation. And I have my own version, but we're gonna practice one from a friend of mine named Deng Ming Dao, who I'm sure a lot of you know. Um, he wrote these books called The Wandering Taoist was the first one. And there was a trilogy. Now they put them all together, and I can't remember what it's called. Chronicles of Tao is what it's called. And it's a story. It's a fun one. It's about a young man who goes into Huashan, the Yellow Mountain in China, which is a place I've been to a few times, and studies with these Taoist people there. And it's very, I have to say, it's very loosely based upon a real teacher who lives in US now. And I keep, I love those books so much. I keep waiting for someone to make a movie out of them because they were really wonderful stories. And as Joni knows, and you guys know, I love stories, and I think stories is the best way to teach something. So you might look for that here. I'll type it real quick in the chat here. The Chronicles of Tao is when they put them all together. Chronicles, spelling this all wrong. Of Tao by Deng Ming Tao. Really nice guy. I met her some years ago. He was very nice, very humble, which I always love when I meet spiritual teachers. So this is his version of a golden light meditation. So he says this meditation for beginners, and in the spiritual realm, we're all beginners, involves visualization, concentration, and absorption. Its purpose is to strengthen your immune system against physical disease, which is what we need right now. We're in the winter season. It's been fairly cold here for Oregon. I mean, my friend Francesco Garipoli, who is in the mountains outside of in North Carolina. He posted something the other day and it was 7 degrees where he was. They're having this really strange polar vortex thing happening over there. And I think it's even cold in Florida, right, Joni?
It was.
Yeah,
It's
it was.
this week it warmed up,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it was down in the 40s. Yeah.
they had something like 10 inches of snow in New Orleans, which they haven't had in 100 years. And it was cold here too, but it's warmed up now. But still, this is the winter time. This is when what in Chinese medicine they call evil winds can come into your body and attack you and get a cold or a virus or something.
They've even got a cold storm in Hawaii. They've got shelters open on the Big Island.
Oh, really?
They're
Wow.
expecting 2 feet of snow up on the volcanoes. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
they're 12,000 feet high, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But still,
Yeah,
to
that's
open
pretty high.
shelters, cold winter shelters in Hawaii, it's like what?
Yeah.
Really bizarre.
Well, we don't know, the whole weather things is changing. We have no idea what used to be is not what we have now. And 2 days ago it was in the 20s at night here, but last night it was in the 40s. So I'm enjoying that. Okay, immune system against physical disease and your aura, which is what the Taoists would or Qigong people would call your qi body, which extends out of your skin. And your skin is the largest organ of your body. And what they call the Wei Qi or the protective Qi is part of the skin and extends a little bit outside of your skin. And in Western people, they talk about it as an aura. And Qigong masters can look at someone and see what their Wei Qi is like right away. So, protect your aura against more subtle, pernicious influences. It is a way of purification. When I was in my short stint in Chinese medicine school, TCM, modern Chinese medicine, they didn't use the term evil wind, which I like much better. They said EP, no, EP. Oh, anyway, it was external pernicious influences, EPI. And the communists, one thing that I don't like at what they did, of course, they changed Chinese medicine from classical Chinese medicine, which had meditation and feng shui and astrology and all these kinds of things, to just acupuncture and nerves. They also took a lot of the poetry out of the Chinese culture. So instead of calling it an external wind, they call it an EPI. So anyway, so let's sit in our chair on our cushion. I know half this class is people watching this on the video. So we're sitting, feet flat on the floor, flat on the earth. And we're doing our usual thing of our eyes are closed, our tongue, tip of our tongue on the upper palate. We're breathing in and out of our nose. And this one we do natural breathing. Next week we're going to do one with reverse breathing. And I usually use in and out of our nose, but he uses one here. We might as well do this one. We're breathing in our nose and out of our mouth. And we imagine we're breathing into our lower dantian, in our lower abdomen, which resides a few inches behind our navel. If any of you have studied TCM, they talk about 3 inches below the navel. But really, when you think about the navel was our energetic connection to our mother in the womb, where we received all our nourishment, then it makes sense that the lower dantian resides behind our navel. So we'll breathe in through our nose and out of our mouth. 9 deep, slow, gentle breaths. Try to keep your tongue on your upper palate the whole time. Now, just like one of the other meditations we've done, we are breathing in golden light, golden chi, healing chi, breathing in golden light, and then wherever you have in your body or even your psyche, disease, pain, toxicity, stress, breathing in the golden light, feeling that fill your whole body and being, and then breathing out whatever you need to let go of. And see it in your mind's eye as black smoke coming out of your body, out of your through your nose. So we'll do 9 breaths of that. And this time we'll breathe in and out of our nose. So we breathe in the light, breathe out the black smoke. Now the next 3 breaths, we breathe in healing and purity and breathe out light and purity as well. I mean 9 breaths. So no more breathing in light and purity and breathing out black smoke. We're breathing in lightness and purity and exhaling lightness and purity. So that we become a being of light and purity. And now in our mind's eye, we imagine a small ball of light in our Hui Yin, in our perineum. Kind of just focus on that, fix that little ball of light right there. And fix another little ball of light in our middle of our brain, in our pineal gland, a tiny little gland in this, right in the middle of our brain that has to do with a lot of hormonal things that go on in our body, but it's also associated with our psychic abilities. So we have a little pearl of light in Hui Yin, another pearl of light in our pineal gland, which of course opens out through our third eye, our upper dantian. Then connect the one in the pineal gland, the one in our Hui Yin, connect them with a thin strand of light. Very, very thin, but very, very going right down through the central channel, our Zhongmo, which goes from the top of our head, our Bai Hui, through the central channel down to our Hui Yin. And the interesting, yeah, okay. I feel it very like a thin filament of light And not just something we're imagining, though, of course, we use our imagination when we first start doing these practices, but as something very real. It connects our root to our upper dantian. And then on one of our in-breaths, we expand the size of the filament to the thickness of our thumb. Then we expand it once again to the thickness of a staff, going right from the top of our head, right through our pineal gland, all the way down to our huayin. Then we enlarge, expand that staff of light to the size of a column of light, much bigger, going from the top of our head through our pineal gland, through our heart center, through our lower dantian, all the way down to our below our lower dantian. Again, we expand it to the width of a cylinder that goes our whole body. It goes right through our whole body and contains our whole body. Our spiritual body, our emotional body, our psychological body, our spiritual body. And then we do one more expansion till it's like a golden egg, large golden egg that we are sitting in the middle of. That is all around us. That we are sitting in the middle of, just like a baby chick is sitting in the middle of their egg, waiting to be born. Kept warm and alive from the mother, or you could say Tao. And imagine this light, not just imagine, but actually see it in your mind's eye, this light penetrating your whole body from all directions. So it's coming from above, below, front to the back, all the sides. This golden egg that we are sitting in holds us, just like our mother held us in the womb when we were young. Lao Tzu says, to know the mother is to know the child. We feel ourselves and experience ourselves as a child of the Great Mother. And then what I usually add with this practice is to feel this light coming into your whole body and being from all sides, and then take a moment to turn the light around and send that light anywhere in the world that we can imagine, no matter how far away it is, to all the people suffering and in want and need in the world right now, or anyone we know that may be very, very ill or in a really bad situation that could use some support, some healing light. You can say their name out loud or just in your mind. Whether you're sending it to LA or Gaza, anywhere in the world that you would like to send this healing light to, now is the time to do that. This is something you can do on your own when you have more time to really go deeply into it. Or just sending light, healing, love, support to all our fellow beings, the Wan Wu, the 10,000 beings, not just human beings, the swimming beings, the flying beings, the two-legged, the four-legged, the standing beings in the forest. To learn Tao, to know Tao, to experience Tao is to learn and know and experience ourselves as just one being among all the myriad beings. No more important, no less important. Open of mind and heart to learn from animals, trees, water, light, the sun, the moon, the stars, all these wise beings, energetic beings. Not feeling ourselves as superior in any way. What the Lakota call mitakwiyas in all our relations. And then we just turn this egg into the column that went right through the very center of our being. And then we kind of just go backwards. Getting smaller and smaller until it just becomes that thin filament of light, moving slowly, bringing our attention, intention in to all the way to the size of our thumb, and then all the way to a thin filament of very, very strong light. And then bring this little pearl of light in the perineum and Hui Yin, let it move all the way up through our middle, the Zhongmo, all the way up into our head. Where it becomes the same light, melts into the same light in our perineum. They join together. And then once they're joined together, we let it slowly move down to our central channel. Slowly, slowly. And of course, when energy moves through the central channel, it's not like a faucet, it's more of a spiral. So it spirals down through our central channel, down, down, down into our lower dantian. And then we take 9 deep breaths into lower dantian. In the meditation, we bring our palms together in front of our heart, rub them briskly together 36 times. And then place your palms over your eyes. Breathe in the warmth of your Lao going into your eyes and even all the way back to the pineal gland. And just slowly rub it on your face a few times. So any questions or comments here before we end?
It was great. Thank you.
Okay. And I will see you here next week. Thank you all for coming and thank you all for watching this on video. I get so much fun out of doing these classes for 5 years. It's been really great. Okay.